She was known only as Witness B, and I put it to you that she is another South African hero. She had no enemies until she was assigned to the murder of Armand Swart. Then her life changed forever. Suddenly, there were threats. There were cars that were following her home and trying to run her off the road, people trying to take pictures of her in court, and a desperate bid to silence her from some people that are even inside the SAPS. Because of what she uncovered, she could expose one of South Africa's biggest tender corruption rings in South Africa's state-owned enterprises. Now, it all started with the murder of Armand Swart, and if you haven't watched my video on that, go and watch it, because Armand Swart was mistaken for a whistleblower. Someone had blown the whistle on a contract that was happening between SK Holdings and Transnet, and Witness B's testimony today. It's clear why they wanted to get rid of this whistleblower, which I'll get into now, because if Transnet investigated this company, this SK Holdings, then a whole lot of other contracts that SK Holdings had been awarded were going to be investigated, and they need to get rid of the person who filed the complaint very quickly. And we know that Armand Swart, he pulled into work and he was shot at from that Hyundai i20 that pulled in behind him while he was waiting there at the gates by QTech. And we know that by this time, there was CCTV footage of the car. There were witnesses who took down the license plates and the registration plates of the car. So police managed to track down the alleged shooters and the hitman quite quickly. They tracked down that Michael Pule Tau, who was one of the two hitmen. Remember, he is that police detective who was in the force for 20 years. He was an active police officer who was moonlighting as an alleged hitman, and him and his accomplice were caught in the Hyundai i20, whereas the other accomplice, who was the scouter, he was caught at an engine garage after his tire had burst. During the arrest of Michael Pule Tau, they would find those 12 shell casings that matched the caliber of what was used to murder Armand Swart, and they would find that in the car with him, and they would collect it. Now, this is important for what happens later on when we get into the ballistics report, because the rot runs really deep. Let me tell you, it runs deep. Now, we know that they arrested Michael Tau. It was obviously a case of red-handed. He is caught in the vehicle with the license plates. He has the bullet casings, the shell casings are there. So this is a case of someone who has been caught almost red-handed committing a crime, and they are arrested. But it was clear to Witness B that they had the right people. Now, when the suspects, the three of them, appeared in court, some strange stuff started happening, because there was a lot of fellow policemen who appeared in court in support of them, although they were wearing plain clothes. And some unknown woman mentioned that KT will make the case go away. And
you then start to deal with a different topic, and this relates to the accused's first appearance on the 19th of April. Can you take the commission through that?
Yes, I will be able to do that. On the 9th, it was the first appearance of the accused at court, and then there was few things that were noted that were unusual. Hence, I've said we've been at court like all our careers, but in this one, there was some unusual things that happened at court. Well, to mention the large numbers of the supporters of the suspects, maybe it's beside the point, but what happened thereof, maybe it worth mentioning. I would say amongst the troops that were there, what we've noted is that the interest, more than to be at court, it was on us. As much as we would identify people trying to take a video footage of us, and then some of the things were informed by the security at court, because they also noted some strange stuff. like they came to me, they know me because I've been to that court in the past, and other matters they might be telling me that, hey, these people are trying to take your photo, but we've controlled it and everything. Some of the things that we didn't see, the security informed us about. And there's this one particular utterance that was uttered by a certain lady that I think it's also worth mentioning. She was like saying out loud, like more like bragging, and intentionally so, because we were close by. It's like, you know, when someone is trying to indirectly convey a message to you, but not really saying it to you, but knowing very well that you'll get the message. She said, KT will make this thing disappear. Like, we didn't understand where does it come from and why is it necessary and why so loud and so bragging, why also next to us. And then after that, after the court, well, all that happened, we noted after the court, when we have to disperse now, I've noted that most of the people that were at court now, we were all out in front of the court, but we were standing like not far from each other, still briefing with each other. I was briefing with my colleagues. They were standing just there looking at us. And I've noted, and I told my colleagues to say, you know what, those people, I feel like they want to see which car are we going to ride in. I don't feel comfortable going to the car because I was supposed to drive my car all alone, and I didn't feel comfortable about that. And then, but anyway, the team felt that we will stand here until when, if they don't move. If eventually they want to see that and they invested to see it, then they won't move until we move, and then we'll wait here until when. And then I asked one of my colleagues to come drive my car because I didn't feel good about it. And then indeed we drove in three different cars, and then witness B being the one at the back, I guess he touched on this, and then he noticed certain things. And then he contacted us about those, and then we stopped at the garage not far in the town there. And then we debriefed, and then we tried to say, let's now, you keep driving, my not jumping into that car because I cannot drive alone now. And then let's see if they're still following us. And then indeed, they keep on following us, of which it was noted they even tried to drive us off the road. And then amongst the cars, if I may make mention, at a later stage, we get to know who are they linked to. Not all of them, but one of the cars that were in the convoy that was following us, driving us off-road. When we're doing other duties, where the suspects are concerned, we find it parked there in that house. So we started to recall to say, oh, but this car is one of those cars.
At the time, witness B did not know who KT was. Now, KT Molefe only became a person of interest in the Swart murder case because of the cell phones. So there were 2 burner phones that were seized along with the hitmen. We know that if they had gotten away, they probably would have gotten rid of those phones. But there was 1 burner phone that was found in the car, the Hyundai i20, and another one that was found in the scouter's car at the petrol station where he had burst a tire, and they were in communication with each other. Now, these phones were taken and they were downloaded, and that is when KT Molefe became a person of interest because of the level of communication between him and the murder suspects. And it is then that they learned that a tender had been legally granted to the SK group of the Transnet tender, and that this tender was not proper because there were 2 other companies who were in competition for it, but on the forms for the tender there was no company that was in competition. And if someone had to audit this tender, then they would realize that this SK group was linked to unlawful tenders, irregular tenders, and they had tenders with many other government companies that would also have to be audited. So this was a big thing. Now remember that Transnet whistleblower that resembled Armand Swart, he had blown the whistle because those springs that were being sold for 6 Rand onto SK Group, which is KT Molefe's group, then they were being sold on for 152 Rand per spring to Transnet. So Transnet was using taxpayer money to buy those springs, and obviously KT Molefe was pocketing these are allegations obviously against him, but he was pocketing that money in between, or someone was pocketing that money in the SK Group. Now we know that when the whistleblower blew that whistle and Lucky got into trouble, then Lucky was required to hand over all documentation. And we know that as soon as those audits of the tenders were going to occur with regards to many other companies, then there was a lot of money that was going to be lost. And that's why it was so important that the whistleblower be taken out quickly, according to witness B. Now, we know that Michael Tau also asked his girlfriend Lorato to assist him in identifying the target and the hit. And KT Molefe allegedly sends Michael Tau, the hitman, the name and the cell phone number of the suspected whistleblower. And on the 12th of April, just a few days before Armand Swart was fatally shot, Tau and KT Molefe, they drive to QTech together to scout. Now, in his bail application, KT Molefe claims that he left his phone in Tau's car, but we know that this is simply not true because he was making active phone calls from his phone. He had an iPhone during this time, and we know that you need a pass pin, you need facial identification. There's some sort of interaction that needs to be done on the phone in order for you to be using it. Now, Lucky Molefe, if he had been forced to hand over the tender documents, they would have revealed that the SK Group had had no competition in the tender and that it had been illegally granted. Now Lucky Molefe had been that Transnet employee who had awarded that allegedly dodgy spring tender contract over to the SK Group. And we know that SK Group, it's money, you can trace the money, it goes to KT Molefe, it goes to many of his family members. And if the SK Group was investigated, it was clear that Lucky Molefe would have been involved in a number of questionable tenders. Now, investigations are still ongoing because there was more than one tender that was awarded. Now, witness B starts to receive threats. She is told by informers that going forward, there are 3 options for her, either to accept bribes or to be killed or for the suspects to escape.
And at paragraph 29, you deal with some of the intelligence you were receiving. Can you tell the commission about that?
Yes, and then this would be the information that will be deliberately delivered amongst the team to say you have only, you like us investigators, you only have 2 options. You only have an option to accept the bribe and do what those criminals want, or you'll die. Actually, the second one, it's not even an option. It's like that. It's either you do this or you'll die. And then where the suspects were concerned, there was a time where a person was informing one of our members to say, now there's only 3 options. The suspect will escape, the suspect will kill you, or the suspect will buy his way out.
And based on...
So it was like these bribes were not coming in a form of like enticing you anymore. It was coming in a form of threatening you as well.
And this is even before KT Molefe is arrested. Now, QTech officers, they found out, were scouted on the 12th, the 15th, and the 16th of April. And KT Molefe had sent Michael Tau the name and the phone number, like I said, of that person believed to be the whistleblower. He had also asked his girlfriend Lorato to search for the person, and Lorato had assisted. And an informer had come to witness B and said that a colleague of her had been paid a 1.5 million rand bribe, and that she could also perhaps be this lucky, but she was never offered any bribes of this nature. Now, we also hear about that encounter that witness A described of meeting Richard Shabiri, and the offer of the 3 envelopes. I've covered that in another video. The 1 envelope for the investigating officers, the other envelope for the prosecutor, and the 3rd for the magistrate. Now, this is where things get extremely interesting and information that we have not heard before, because witness B says that she and her colleagues went to go and collect the police ballistic reports. And when they previously found out, they were told by the ballistics expert that the guns had been linked to other high-profile hits. But when they arrived to collect the report, it seems as though, this is my interpretation, someone got to the person who was in charge of the ballistics report. I'm not too sure how, because she explains that the report was not ready and they were told it needed to be rectified. And witness A also testified that those 12 shell casings had been missing. Remember those 12 shell casings that had been collected from the hitman's car? Well, they were just missing from the report, and witness B confirmed this. And the ballistics analyst allegedly told them that the weapons were linked to some other high-profile cases. But when they went through the initial report, none of the linkages were mentioned. She went to go and talk to the person who completed the ballistics report, and she says that he was dismissive and acted like he had not spoken about those other cases being linked. Now, in order to rectify this, the guns were then taken to KZN along with the casings in order to make a new ballistics report. And that ballistics report, that second ballistics report, managed to identify a serial number on one of the guns when the first had not done so. And when she went to go and meet the senior prosecutor on the case, the prosecutor wrote to the lab who had initially done the first report saying that it was incompetence. But this would result in much more than incompetence, because the second ballistics report would contain the information about the 15 cartridges that were found in the possession of Tao. And remember, Tao claims that he fired those during a hunting trip with his brother. But when they tried to go and find the original ballistics report, it was missing, because the state was required to present the original ballistics report as evidence, and it could not be found. And they went to go look on the system. This is a forensic system that is used. And the entry on the guns was found to be deleted on the 6th of December, the same day that KT Molefe had been arrested. Now, I got the impression that witness B was just trying to sort things out, trying to find the original ballistics report. And all the time she's being met with interference, she takes the expert, this questioned expert, to the ballistics lab. They're trying to find the report, and then she is instructed to leave the lab by a general, and then a criminal case was opened against her for kidnapping that expert. And the expert has never explained why there were multiple ballistics reports on his computer and where the original ballistics report went. And she was also not allowed back in the ballistics lab. She was barred from the ballistics lab. This is how deep the rot runs. Now, we also know that cell phone analysis revealed that General Shabiri, he's the one that told about the 3 envelopes. He had been in contact with the Cat Matala. And the relationship, witness B says, is serious. There's even an exchange of money that was going on. And then things get suspicious because Michael Tao is granted bail as a result of his deterioration of his diabetes. Now, witness B, she comes across as an extremely credible policewoman. She does her job thoroughly. She goes to the prison herself where Tao was being held. And authorities there confirm that they're able to treat people with diabetes. In fact, they have over 100 people in jail with diabetes. Then witness B started receiving inappropriate requests in July 2024 when someone told her that they had been sent by a brigadier, Mkawashu, who was asked, and she was asked not to oppose bail. Now, we know Mkawashu was recently connected with KT Molefe. He has been shown going to go visit KT Molefe in jail, and he bought clothes and food for him, but he was not allowed in. And more importantly, he came with concealed plates or concealed license plates in order to go and visit KT Molefe in jail. Now, while this is happening, Michael Tau was found to be violating his bail conditions, and he was rearrested. Now, this prosecutor in the case as well is trying to help witness A and witness B get protection, because they are getting all these threats. There is talk about envelopes. There is talk about knocks on, people accepting bribes and things like that. And this is when cold case investigators asked for the Swart murder docket. Remember, they were carrying that murder docket around with them everywhere. Witness A said they didn't leave, the murder docket did not leave their possession. They were carrying it with them home. They were carrying it with them to coffee, to lunch, because they simply did not trust that murder docket with anyone else. And that is when the cold case team asked for the murder docket, which I find is extremely suspicious, because cold case teams are only supposed to investigate cases that have gone cold, that there is no active investigation, when there is clearly an active investigation going on here. And that is where we left off for the day. And let me tell you, the rot is running deep, and more names are being revealed. And like I said, the Madlanga Commission is shaking a tree. I can only hope that as South Africans, bodies do not fall out of it, but instead we get hope, and that we get justice, and that these criminals who have been stealing taxpayer money, that they get held accountable.